Good day, this is Matthew Lee with ABR Firm, and you're watching the Reach for Better podcast. I serve as the Chief Leadership Officer and Executive Coach at ABR Firm, and today we have a wonderful guest sharing a distinct conversation with us regarding mental health. We have with us Rick Harrell, the forthcoming Dr. Rick Harrell. Pleasure to see you again, sir.
Thanks, glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Rick, if you will, give us some insight on your background. I know you started out in criminal justice and you have a wealth of knowledge and experience in behavioral health. Give us some insight to how you got to this particular journey and how things are going and how things are coming along.
Right. Well, long story short, I actually, you're exactly right. I started my career in the criminal justice field. Right out of college, I became a probation officer. Worked for Shelby County government, Shelby County Pretrial Services. Worked in that field for Shelby County Pretrial Service for about 7 years before transitioning to another private probation company here in the city of Memphis, and worked there for about 4 years, and worked in juvenile court also.
Yes, sir.
As a juvenile probation officer for a number of times. So I actually have been working in the criminal justice field in some capacity, whether it's been on the court management side of things, the justice system side of things, or in mental health. And I actually transitioned over into mental health from the probation side of work because I wanted to really dig a little deeper into why we had the high recidivism rates, why people come back to in the justice system or get rearrested numerous times. I saw a lot of that when I was in the probation field, where people were being put back on probation over and over. And so from that, I wanted to go and study the field of counseling psychology. So I went to the University of Memphis, worked on my master's, and I always never believed that people who commit crimes are just criminals and they like committing crimes. They don't want to work or they're lazy. There are social ills that create crime in our society, and
they definitely add to the context of what happens with people as it relates to,
absolutely.
And so with that in mind, you mentioned the recidivism rate. I've heard that in most instances, particularly in metropolitan areas, we hear up to 60%, 70% sometimes. The fact that you were on the back end of it, you talk about now being on the front end of it in terms of counseling. Tell us a little bit about the framework where you were trained as a professional counselor, what that training was like, and how it inspired you to continue going even further. Right now, you're in the process of preparing for your doctorate, facing dissertation stage and the like. So give us some more insight in terms of that process.
Yes, as you stated, I in working in the field, you got to see a lot of things that really contribute to people participating in certain types of behaviors. So it's really trying to understand, why do people do what they do? I don't think that people just they're like I said, born criminals, or they're born to participate in certain behaviors. There are reasons as to why that happens, and so really taking a deeper dive into it and being able to understand what are some of the causal factors that create certain behaviors. Understanding, it was at that time I was able to understand more about mental health, because when I first came to the criminal justice system, we didn't talk about mental health.
That wasn't the focus, right?
It wasn't the focus at all, but it was, people were having mental health issues even then. But we didn't know what to call it. We had no name for it. We just say just bad people, or they were just crazy. And so it gave me the opportunity to really understand that we needed more. As we see our criminal justice system has evolved now, they understand that mental illness is a big contributing factor to people committing certain offenses and crimes. And so right now, I think our criminal justice system has a mental health court. It has a drug court. We know that drugs and alcohol and addiction play a factor in that as well. And so being able to really study that, understand the research behind it, helps you understand why we have some of those issues in our society.
And some of that has led you to now being more of a presence with regard to organizations, helping them understand mental health dynamics in the workplace.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what the employee and employer relationships look like these days as relates to understanding mental health? I know a lot of factors go into it.
Right. Well, I think one of the things is that I even think employers, there are some employers that I've worked with, I have contracts with they are beginning to understand better, become more astute to the importance of mental health, understand that a healthy employee is a productive employee,
Yes, sir.
it's a compliant employee. And so a lot of it, I think even after COVID, we saw where a lot of companies began to understand that those people were dealing with a lot of anxiety, and depression, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So I think companies saw a real value in providing more resources for their employees to receive counseling, receive other mental health mental health services. Some of the companies like Google, Walmart, Apple, Microsoft, Starbucks, some of those major corporations are corporations who are now making sure that they're providing more mental health services, counseling services for their employees, EAP services. I think those companies will offer about 20 plus EAP counseling sessions per year for their employees to make sure that their mental health is being taken care of.
And so in a lot of instances, we see the larger companies, the Fortune 500 companies, when they kind of set a tone, that other smaller companies will begin to follow that lead. What do you see as the emerging pattern with regard to employees and mental health overall? Are people taking it head on? Are they, historically, it seems as if it's been something that we've associated with a stigma.
That's right.
And now it seems that there's more conversations happening about mental health. And so what's the pattern that you see emerging, particularly as you do consulting work across the country and the like?
I definitely see, from the time I came into this field back some years ago,
it's been a while.
I've been doing this work for about 27 years.
Wow.
So when I came in this field after graduating with my master's in 1999 from the University of Memphis, it's evolved quite a bit. There was a time that the stigma still exists, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But it was a time that no one understood mental health. It was at a time where, especially in our community, in the black community, we didn't go get help.
Right.
And so I see more where companies are becoming more involved in understanding it more, having the conversations more, where they are becoming more invested in that.
Right.
There's still organizations that are where the stigma still exists. It's not the most appropriate thing to do. I think some companies are doing it now because they're being forced to, in some instances, you know.
Right.
So it's changed quite a bit. I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in terms of educating organizations about how we need to move forward, how important mental health is.
So I want to segue to this idea of what we see sometimes happening in workplace situations. We see the escalation of violence and the like. How does a behavioral scientist like yourself assess the landscape of workplace violence and really how to de-escalate in those kinds of situations? Everything doesn't necessarily escalate to murder or shootings, but we see things where fights happen, conflict happens. What are some of the things that you assess as you look at the landscape of?
When I go into organizations, there was a lot of workplace violence training I used to do.
Yes, sir.
I think one of the things that if you were to look at the data as relates to, I think, OSHA, which is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, reports about 2 million workplace violence incidents per year in our country. And we don't hear about all of them. We hear about the more fatal situations or shootings that may take place. But those workplace incidents may involve physical threats, it can be assaults, it may just be two people fighting or whatever, but you may also have harassment type situations that take place. So they count all that data in terms of these are things that escalate things to a place that can get out of control. So one of the things I saw in organizations was that many times there was a disconnect between, of course, between management and employees. And of course, when there's a disconnect, we already got the potential for things to escalate.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And people like to think, well, nothing, there's nothing that's happening at this point. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when something will happen when we don't choose to put things in place and put de-escalation type of strategies in place prior to things escalating.
And so is there a distinct difference between de-escalation and general conflict management? Can you talk about that some?
I would, they both are, can piggyback off each other, but I think in terms of conflict management, is in terms of, from my perspective, is a little different than de-escalating something.
Sure.
If I'm managing the conflict, I'm actually, hopefully I'm trying to keep something from escalating.
Sure.
Okay? Now, are there some strategies that can be put in there that some de-escalation strategies that are put in there to manage conflict? Yes.
Gotcha.
But I think a lot of times we think about something escalating, we're thinking about something that's actually reached its peak. And we really, the strategies that I choose to indulge in or try to convey to organizations is that how do we in fact manage something or keep something from de-escalating before it reaches its peak. And so if I'm trying to de-escalate a matter that's already reached its peak, then I make the de-escalation process much harder.
Right.
And sometimes it's so difficult you may not be able to de-escalate that situation. So how do I in fact start the de-escalation process from its core? When we see the problems in the organization that's taking place, how do we in fact address those, identify those things to be what I call proactive?
Right.
And what they use in a lot of hospitals and even in prisons, we call it, I think the phrase that they use for it, wow, it kind of slips my mind, but what it pretty much boils down to, we're going to be proactive. We're going to look at all of the potential things that can happen, and we're going to look at the things that have already happened in the past and see how we brought solutions to that. There's a term for that that slips my mind right now.
Sure.
That they use it quite a bit. So if somebody's looking at this, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's taking really a proactive approach to addressing situations.
And so with you mentioned earlier the connection between productivity and assessing employees as a whole person. When we do this, when we take this approach as organizations, talk about the value that and the culture that helps to create in an organization. When that organization takes ownership and says, we see you as a full person, a human being, not just somebody to help us get to our bottom line. Those conversations at the top, what do you suggest organizations start doing to make sure that they see the humanity in people as they assess mental health?
I think it's exactly kind of really what you just stated. Seeing people as more than just a profit margin. Being able to see people as human, being able to see people as really as being people, someone of value, value not just to the company, but as a person, an individual. And I think many times in leadership, one of the things I always, when I'm dealing with leaders or doing any consulting with leaders in organizations, I'm always talking about their responsibility to the organization and to the employee. I believe that a leader should be a servant leader. I don't believe, I think I've discussed this before with people. I've worked in organizations where leadership will have to let you know that they're in charge. And I laugh at leaders like that. Inside, I really do, because I really, as me being a psychotherapist, I'm always wondering what are his real or her real insecurities.
Sure.
I work
You
for,
know that they exist,
I
right?
know they exist, and I'm checking it all the time. I've
Yes.
always, few of the leaders I've worked for in government who are always letting you know who they are. I had one leader out there, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss. Well, I didn't like that word boss. I had to educate on where that word boss came from, and didn't really appreciate that. But as I said, someone else got to tell you they're in charge, they're not really in charge. So what's your real insecurities? Which you're really not a good leader.
Right.
And so I always try to help leaders understand that in organizations I've gone in where they've had high turnover rates, these are places where they have not invested in people's mental health. In most cases, I can see
the symptoms, yes, sir.
I can see the correlation, how you have not invested in people's mental health.
Sure.
You've only looked at people as a bottom line or as a profit margin, and they said, well, why are we having these high turnover rates? And I always remind people that, or leaders in organizations, that people don't quit jobs; they quit leadership and culture.
Yes, sir.
People will stay on the job for less money if you treat them right.
Yes, sir.
If you invest in them.
Sure.
And that's hard for a lot of leaders and organizations to really understand.
At ABR Firm, we build leaders week after week. You were never meant to lead alone. Your growth should be consistent and not just occasional. That's why we show up every week to sharpen skills that matter. We offer live virtual trainings to support your personal and professional growth. Confident Communicator, offered every Tuesday and Thursday. The Learning Leader, offered on Wednesdays. Join a virtual learning space where your next level is always within reach. Are you ready to grow? Start here. abrfirmmemphis.com/professional development. And remember, you can always reach for better.
RH Counseling works to help individuals in need of addressing mental and behavioral health issues. We achieve this by providing clients with the skills to handle life's challenges that could lead to personal and professional growth. This is through our therapeutic counseling. We use a cognitive behavioral approach through our programs like individual therapy, couples counseling, grief and loss, anger management, and family counseling. We are accepting of individuals that come from all walks of life. We meet the clients where they are with an ultimate goal of bringing healing and resolution to the lives of those seeking mental and behavioral health support. Our appointments are easy to secure. You can call us or send us an email through the website. RH Counseling receives referrals from Cigna Behavioral Health as a provider in this network, law offices, Psychology Today, clinicians, public and private organizations, self-referrals, and more. It takes a willingness from the client to receive therapy and commitment from the clinician to provide effective therapeutic strategies, which leads to healing. Client plus clinician plus implementation of therapeutic strategies equals healing.
And we're back at the Reach for Better podcast, and we're sitting here with Rick Harrell, psychotherapist, behavioral scientist, and a professional communicator. We've been talking about communication and the idea of you were assessing some of the dynamics in organizational settings and trying to figure out sometimes what lies underneath. And you mentioned the term root cause analysis.
The term I couldn't remember, it was root cause analysis is what it is.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the things that I can remember when we went into when I came to work for the sheriff department as a psychotherapist. I came with a psychologist who trained me, Dr. Bradley P. Barris, who was really, in my opinion, world renowned, the best psychologist still to this day. He's no longer with us, but he would go into organizations And one part of his job was going to organizations and really looking at taking this term root cause analysis. This is something they use in hospitals quite a bit to look at what are some of the problems they've had in the past, what are some of the current problems they're having now, and what can be some potential problems that can happen in the future.
So they're piecing a timeline together.
Piecing a timeline together to be able to resolve issues and problems to things that have happened in the past. How have we resolved those? Did we resolve those things in the
Right.
past? If we didn't, we need to get back to it.
Right.
What's happening right now? How are we going to address those things happening right now? Or what are some potential things
Okay.
that are going to could happen in the future? Because all things evolve,
Yes, sir.
you know, to some place or change. And so root cause analysis is one of the things that I believe that organizations have to really implement to really address a lot
Take
of
some
the
ownership
issues.
on.
Exactly.
So I want to assess this dynamic that we see happening today in society with the idea of the soundbite and how people do messaging with just little small samples of what's being said and not necessarily being able to capture the context of what is being said. In so many instances, we see that in the workplace as well. An email is sent out and people kind of focus on just a piece of it, and it can escalate and it can create rumors. So when you're going into a situation where you know that there's some errors and there's some mismanagement in terms of communication happening, what are some of the rudimentary steps that you take to see where people are and help everybody potentially get on the same page, or at least have that as a goal going forward?
That's a great question, man. You know, communication, I think, is when we talk about de-escalation, conflict management, resolution in organizations, or just in your own personal life, communication is a big key.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people think that they know how to communicate because they can articulate or they can speak the King's English very well. That's you just maybe a good speaker, or a great speaker.
Right.
Communication takes some skills, and it's really taking in consideration what am I communicating, and what do I want the person to get from my communication, and taking consideration how that person will receive it.
Sure.
Okay? If I just communicate to you and I don't care how you get it,
So perception is a real thing.
it's real. It can be real.
Yes,
Okay?
sir.
It can be real.
Yeah.
And so I think use example of communication. I can go back a lot of these things that I kind of use in consulting. I can go back to my own experiences. I can remember getting emails when I worked in government, and how the email came across.
Yeah.
Emails, I do not particularly, I'm old school.
Sure.
Emails are fine, they're convenient, they all convey what is being said,
Capture the
what you want to capture on.
I hear you.
And so, you know, but emails tell you a lot too.
Yes.
Tell you a lot.
Yes.
So I can remember getting an email one time, to get back to your point, from a boss, one of the bosses that wanted to let me know that she was the boss. They were all in red caps.
Yeah. That's a red flag.
What was
right
that
there,
tell you?
right? Red
What was that tell
flag,
you?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, me being the assertive person that I am,
Yes, sir.
let that boss know that I didn't like the tone, the caps. And she had to yell, I don't believe in being a coward. You pick the phone up, if you got something to say to me, say it.
Right.
But what that said to me, she wanted to yell at me. Okay, and it was intentional why she did. No, who does everything in red caps unless you intend to do it?
Right.
And so I think there's so many forms of communication in the workplace. One of the things we look at is how are we communicating in every aspect, whether it's an email, whether it's on a Zoom. What's my body language? What's my eye contact? Well, my lack of eye contact, my facial expression. All these are factors in how we in fact communicate. And there are steps to communicate. There's 4 levels of communication.
Okay.
And there's the passive communicator, there's the passive aggressive communicator, then there's the aggressive communicator, and then we have the assertive communicator. Well, the passive communicator is that communicator that doesn't communicate well because they're passive and how they communicate. They just don't give an opinion, have no opinion, or they just let things go. You got the passive aggressive communicator who's the manipulative communicator. Don't express feelings, but act the feelings out. Okay. Then you have the aggressive communicator. We all know what that is. That's the boss who sent everything.
Red caps.
I really think it was passive aggressive because she couldn't express herself in person that way. She wouldn't have dared done it in person. So she's more passive aggressive than aggressive. But then we know the assertive communicator is what we call the innovative, creative communicator, because I'm concerned about what I say to you, and I want you to receive it in a way that we can have a partnership to where we are in a way that's effective, that we're both getting something from what's being done and what's being said. And when managers and supervisors and leaders can do that in an organization, now we have harmony in the organization. We keep things from escalating because we've taken care of it on the front end. I care about what I say to you. If I care about what I say to you, I'm gonna think about it, even when you've done something that may have disturbed me. I'm thinking about, well, how do I want Matt to get this to where we can come to a resolve? I get my point across, we come to resolve, and we can still walk in harmony.
So talk about the generational differences as it relates to being able to communicate on different levels, because we know we're from the Gen X generation. The baby boomers who preceded us, they've communicated in a particular kind of way. And so now here we are at the age of watching millennials and Gen Zers emerge. Talk about some of the stylistic differences.
A lot in workplace organizations, we really have to, even as leaders, have to really be skilled at this one, because we have to understand that whether we like or appreciate the other generations, and we could often do it often even with my daughter. I remind her, my daddy did it when he was boy, when I was your age, I did this. I tell my daughter, you got it good. Because I was your age. So every generation tells them what they So this transcends into the workplace sometimes. And so we Gen X's or baby boomers, we see the Gen Z's and the millennials who will say that they feel entitled, they don't have a good work ethic, and all those things. I used to hear that a lot when I was in management and government, and a lot of the things that they said about the Gen Z's and Gen X, it's true. It's true in my opinion. But I'm also coming from perspective, how can we use that though?
It can be an asset.
It can be an asset.
I hear you.
Because one thing about that generation is they, we didn't grow up with cell phones.
That's right.
Did we?
We did not.
We didn't grow up with doing things on Zoom. If somebody told us you could do Zoom on your phone, you would say they were crazy.
That was Jetsons.
That's right. That wasn't no real stuff that could happen. And so they come to the table with a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills that we may not have. We have to learn how to meet people where they are, instead of thinking we just can put our foot on their neck. And seeing it happen in workplaces where I've worked, in organizations where I've done training in, where we just don't make these Gen Zs and millennials do what we want them to do. That is many places like a whole lot of turnover. And they don't get it many times, understanding that, they have the mindset, whether you understand it or not, that I would quit. You would hire me today and I'll quit on you today. But you got bills, so I don't care. I go home and say to my mama and dad to pay my bills.
That's a generation difference.
That's how they think. I've seen them do it.
So
how do we engage them in a way that they understand that we have to understand that there's a gap. There's a gap between how do we fill the gap? And filling the gap means we have to meet people halfway, meet them where they are, and being able to say, how can I utilize you in a way that's going to conduct the organization?
And so some of that is at the core of your skill set, being able to help negotiate mediate and create the right kinds of cultures in workplace things. So often what we see is this toxic dynamic where things that need to be said go unspoken, and so there becomes this undercurrent of toxicity. How do you go in and help to debunk what some are thinking about the other side? Sometimes we have perceptions that the employers are like this, and sometimes the employers have the perception that the employees are like this. And so how do you help get to the middle?
Great question. I've actually been involved in a training like that before, where I did exactly that. We was conflicting in a particular organization with management and with the employees. I've actually done this even in as a director and administrator in government as well. And one of the things that you'll find goes right back to the communication. You find it's always a miscommunication. It goes back to communication. The misconceptions about things, because things have not been communicated well. One of the things that I tend to like to do is to bring. Going back to those 4 communication styles: the passive aggressive, and the aggressive. The only way you're going to resolve issues like that, there has to be an assertive approach. Meaning that we have to, in fact, understand, let's do the root cause analysis here.
Yes, sir.
Find out what are the underlying, what have been the issues in the past, what's going on right now, and then how we keep this from proceeding or going forward and continuing being an issue. And I think when we bring parties to the table and be able to say, okay, hey, get both perspectives, and then you'll find out most times we've done that the perceptions that are there. Now they're real because it's how people perceive it.
Right.
But you'll find out that they had a misunderstanding, but with each other's side is what the goal is. And so really understanding what the real goals are.
Yes, sir.
And in organizations, I like to always come from the perspective of SMART goals. Say SMART goals. You know, what are the real goals here? Are they specific? Do we all understand what they really are?
Yes.
Are they measurable?
Right.
What actions are we in fact putting into this? Are they realistic? And then what is the time frame that we're giving ourselves to do these things? And so it goes back to all that.
And I hear good leaders say that you cannot change what you're not willing to confront. And so the conversations have to be there in place to facilitate that kind of culture that people are hoping to achieve and get maximum productivity out of.
And you're exactly right, man. Even in terms of doing therapy, when I'm doing therapy with a client, or dealing therapy with a couple, especially in couples therapy. You know, if we're not confronting the issue, we're not going to change anything. If you're not willing to put the work in to change, to make some change, it goes back to, you know, when doing therapy, I always tell the client that I have a responsibility as your therapist to help you.
Right.
But you have more responsibility to help yourself. If I'm doing all the helping, we're not doing therapy.
That's right.
So it translates even into an organization. Everybody has a responsibility to make the changes. Management can't do it by himself.
Right.
Employees can't do it by themselves. We got to work together to make the changes and make the culture one that's productive.
Right. So we're getting ready to wrap up here in a few minutes, but I do want to get some practical steps, particularly for organizations, that business leaders can take today if they decide they want to understand, have better relationships with employees, create better culture. What are some of those initial steps, perhaps an assessment of sorts that they need to take in order to get going in the right direction?
It goes back to what I said earlier. I think we have to I think leaders have to invest in their people, invest in creating, I think it's the leader's responsibility to create a positive, productive, healthy culture. Okay.
The leader sets the tone.
Leader sets the tone with that.
Gotcha.
It doesn't trickle from some organizations I worked in they have the perspective that culture and responsibilities start from the bottom up. And I find that leaders that think like that are leaders who want to point blame and never take any accountability for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's all you leaders. The bottom line is with you.
Yeah.
Okay? Things don't go right, still the bottom line is it ends with you.
Yeah.
And I see leaderships, I see organizations in government, I see leaders in organizations in nonprofit or private sector where that concept, and those are areas or places where they do not thrive. I think it all starts with understanding the why of an organization. Understanding why. And Simon Sinek's book, Starting with Why,
Mm-hmm.
I love the book from the perspective of understanding. So those companies that are successful understand their why.
Right.
And when you understand your why, you're able to implement the what and the how.
Mm-hmm.
Organizations that start with what and how, they never have a
struggle,
why.
yeah.
They struggle.
They struggle.
And so going back to the question that you asked, I think leaders have to start with why. Why are you even in the position? Why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
What is the mission of the organization? And then being the model in terms of implementing what the mission is, then you know what? The employees follow and they understand, oh, he's in charge, she's in charge, because he understands or she understands the why. They adopt the why as well.
That's really good. As you look at the landscape of mental health overall, and particularly as you help organizations, you addressed earlier the misconceptions about sometimes what mental health looks like. Mm-hmm. How do we do better messaging about mental health?
We have to really understand. We have to really, first of all, dispel the myths that are out there. There's still a lot of myths, Matt, that relates to mental health, but I think we're doing a good job in terms of dispelling the myths. I think, especially in our community, in the Black community,
yes, sir.
It's definitely important. I think therapists that look like me in my community need to let people that look like us know that it's okay to get help, and that it's important to get help. And I think one of the things that we have to do is understand, first of all, understand the history behind why we don't get help.
Yes, sir.
And part of the history is involved in, when you talk about the mental health or the school of psychology, we have to understand that it is historically has been a racist one, okay? Mm-hmm. When you think about the godfathers of psychology, the Sigmund Freuds, the other philosophers like Sir Francis Galton and these people believed that black people were in fact inferior. And so it actually played a big part in the institution of slavery and things of that nature. And so we didn't get help because a lot of the experiments were done on us.
Yes,
medically, the Tuskegee experiments,
absolutely.
A lot of those other things. And so it started there. It didn't start just we didn't get help. We didn't trust,
right? Because
we had a reason not to trust. Mm-hmm. And so when you study history, you understand that. Another thing I think is important for the religious community.
Very good.
To help us, because a lot of people of color, of black people, are people of faith, like myself, like yourself.
Yes, sir.
And so it's important for pastors and for religious leaders to let their parishioners know that it's okay to get help.
Endorse it. Right?
Endorse it.
Yes.
Endorse it. Prayer is a part of therapy. Prayer, meditation, all that's a part of it. But we have to be, God wants us to be whole in every aspect, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so I think we have to let our people know it's okay to get help. I like to always say, and I say this with my clients when I'm doing, that I do therapy with, that it's okay not to be okay. Because life happens to us all.
Yes, sir.
I don't care who you are, you don't escape life happening to you. Yeah. And so it's okay to not be okay, but I always end it with it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay not okay.
Yes, sir.
And so get the help that you in fact need, because God does want us to live fulfilled lives, and He wants the whole man, the whole woman to be whole.
Right.
And so.
You mentioned in the earlier conversation we had that biblical verse, "Beloved, I wish that you would prosper
And be in health.
and be in health." That means mental health as well.
I don't know why we missed that part.
Right.
You know, so many years I've quoted that scripture. My dad's a pastor, and that was one of his favorite scriptures. And I just never, I missed that until I actually got into the mental health field.
Sure.
Because I always thought that means I need to have my spiritual life together, and if I do that, then okay, I'm gonna get a lot of money.
Right. Right.
Okay. Well, I'm still waiting on that money. Still waiting on all that money. But no, what God has said, I'm wealthy in the fact that I'm spiritually fit, mentally fit, and physically, mentally, and spiritually fit.
Mm-hmm.
You got that, man. You got everything. That's worth more than money.
That does
so,
produce a peace, doesn't
yes,
it? Yeah, it does.
A peace that passes all understanding. And so I'm rich in that. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and for you to give us so many different insights with regard to mental health. Obviously, you do private practice, but you are available to help organizations as well. Give our viewers an opportunity to be able to follow you and connect with you on social media, your office information, so you can continue. Obviously, you're an author as well. People want to perhaps get your book. Let our viewers know how to connect with you.
You can connect with me on social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. You can also reach me at my website, RH Counseling Service. That's rhcounselingservice.org. And you can, we're located at 1331 Union Avenue, Suite 1014, Memphis, Tennessee 38104. I'm licensed in 3 different states: the state of Tennessee, Arkansas, and Georgia, in terms of doing therapy. And but we can, phone number we can be reached at is 901-569-2103 or 901-930-8418.
That information will be in a link as well. We want you to follow Rick Harrell, who's a forthcoming doctor. His dissertation is forthcoming and the like. We appreciate the opportunity to share with you today. Thank you so much for helping us. This is Matthew Lee with ABR Firm, Reach for Better podcast. Thanks so much for watching.